morning, dear people of the internet, and welcome to the end of all boredom and the beginning of the improvement of your free time. We're talking about hobbies today. Now, I would call myself an expert on the topic. I have many hobbies. I crochet, I knit, I spin wool, I game, I read, I draw, even though I wouldn't call that a hobby anymore because I'm in school for that now, but I have many hobbies. And I've tried even more hobbies. A lot of people, including myself, have taken to showing off their hobbies on the internet, which is great because spread the fun, you know? It's always nice to see what people are doing and making, that's great. However, sometimes when I'm watching these videos, I feel like people are selling their hobby to me in a way, or that their way of practicing said hobby is the only right way to do so, or that I'm not doing enough of my hobby in some way. It feels kind of weird to me. And that leads to the question, are we taking hobbies too seriously nowadays? Before we get into this, I have a very short public service announcement. I am in college, as I said, and I can use your help with the logistical side of that. And the only thing you have to do for that is subscribe and watch my videos, if you like them, of course. And that's totally free. So thank you for that. And now let's get started. One of the reasons I wanted to make this video is this kind of post in the subreddit r/hobbies. The title of this post is Looking for a Hobby with an Enjoyable Process. I'm 25F, I go to the gym consistently and I love to read, but I don't consider those hobbies. I think those are hobbies. I wonder why this person doesn't consider reading and going to the gym hobbies. She doesn't explain it, but I have a theory.
You're asking me about my theories? I've waited years for someone to ask me about my theories!
Going to the gym and reading are productive. You're training your body and your brain, after all. And there are also things that the 5 a.m. productivity bros tell you to do. So my theory would be that this person doesn't want productive things for a hobby. We are going to talk about productivity versus hobbies later on, but that's my theory for now, and I don't find it a very strong theory, but that's the only reason I can come up with. Anyhow, the most important aspect of a hobby is the enjoyment. I want to be good at something, but also enjoy the process. I'm interested in knowing your hobbies. Most importantly, why this hobby? And what did you enjoy most about the process? There are so many hobbies out there. I wish I could dance, but it feels so awkward starting, and classes are intimidating because everyone puts out their phone to record as soon as they learn the choreography. I'm curious to know about people's hobbies in hopes of me being intrigued to try it. Thank you in advance. I assure you that there are dance studios you can go to without having to be recorded. And it's always your right to opt out of recording, so that's kind of a weird argument, and it sounds like this person is maybe just anxious to try it, I don't know. Anyhow, this person is looking for a hobby, and she's definitely not the only one on this subreddit. A lot of people on this subreddit feel the need to have a hobby because they think they're too basic without it, or they think they need a more interesting hobby other than maybe watching shows or going to the gym, for example, because everyone seems to do that, or a lot of people, and they want to be more interesting. I really think that having a hobby can be very beneficial for your mental health. I also think that just going through a list of hobbies, like this person is asking for in the comments, is not too helpful. This person wants a hobby that she can enjoy and that she can learn a skill from in the process, and I don't think that's specific enough to find a hobby. But the main takeaway here is that there are a lot of people online who struggle to find a hobby and feel the need to have a hobby. Luckily, we also have TikToks like these to help those people.
2026 is the year that we are becoming our hottest selves, and hot girls have hobbies. So here's a list of hobbies that you can try in 2026. Number 1 is crosswords and word searches. I actually bought myself a crosswords book for my 18th birthday, and these are heavily slept on, okay? They're so much fun and they take hours, and they're also really good for your brain. I would highly recommend. Number 2 is making pipe cleaner flowers. I've just seen a tutorial for these on TikTok and it genuinely looks so pretty. When I learn how to make these, I will be doing it for all of my friends, okay? Number 3 is journaling. One of my personal favorites, if you couldn't already tell. It's just such a good way to shed any kind of mental blocks that you're having and any emotions that you're holding on to or things from the past. Get rid of it and put it in your journal. Or if you don't really like that, then you could also do bullet journaling, which is so cute. I wish that I was a good kind of drawer so that I could do this. Number 4 is to read. I'm a firm believer in the quote that if you don't like reading, you just haven't found the right book for you yet. And this is my bookshelf. It is my proudest possession. I worked hard to build her, okay? Number 6 is going to the gym. Literally one of my favorite things to do every single day. It makes me feel so good about myself and my body, and I love to move my body now. 7 is to join an exercise class. Like if you don't want to work out alone, then go work out with other people. It's a great way to make new friends as well, which is just another way to not spend time on a screen. 8 is Lego. Childhood me never thought I would have said that because I was not a Lego girl, okay? Until my 18th birthday, and my friend bought me Lego to try. Is she not literally the sweetest thing ever? Now I'm obsessed with Lego and I want to do all of the models that I can find. So Lego, I love you. Number 9 is to watercolor. I do this regularly. It's so easy. It's so fun. It's so therapeutic for me for some reason. I love seeing all the colors like merge and blend together. Number 10 is pottery painting. This is just so cute. Like I really want to go pottery painting with my friend. 11 is beading and embroidery. I actually do this in school as a class, but even if you don't, then you could totally do this. It's so relaxing and so satisfying to like actually have a final product, and there's so many things you can do with fabric. 12 is to learn a new language. I really want to start learning Spanish again next year, so Duolingo is going to become my new best friend, okay? Obviously, if you want to take it more seriously, then there are definitely options to do that, but I love Duolingo as like a good little way to start. 13 is to read Substack articles. I read articles all the time. I feel like it's so beneficial to improving your brain, becoming a more intelligent human being about different issues in the world, and just about how you can improve yourself as well. One of the things I love about social media, especially platforms like Substack, is the fact that it just grants you knowledge to a higher version of yourself. Instead of scrolling on social media, you could actually read something that is going to better you. 14 is to go on daily walks. Genuinely, there is not a day that I can't go without a walk. Honestly, you need to get your body moving. You need to go outside. You need to get fresh air. If you stay in bed rotting all day, scrolling on your phone, you're not going to be feeling like the hottest version of yourself. Let's be real here. Do things that are going to make you feel good about yourself. And on that note, I wish you guys the happiest new year possible. I love you. I believe in you. I am so grateful you are here. Now go be a baddie and celebrate New Year's. Try some hobbies. Become the hottest version of yourself.
Don't get me wrong, those are all great options. Maybe except for the doom scroll on Substack instead of TikTok thing, because I would just end up doom scrolling to find an article to read on Substack, and I don't think that's anything better than doom scrolling on TikTok. That might just be me, but great options overall. Now, this video frames a hobby as something that makes you a better person. I do think that so-called bed rotting is bad for your mental health, and it most of the times doesn't help. But this video kind of gives me the idea that you're not just doing this for your own mental health, but also for your image. The hashtag 2026 glow up under the video doesn't help with that. I've made a lot of videos about rebranding yourself and glow ups and whatever, and I don't like those because they put too much pressure on your outside image and don't actually talk about what is actually good for you, you know? If you want a more in-depth take on this, somewhere in a corner, you can find them after you watch this video, of course. But I would say that you would have a hobby for yourself and not for your outside image. I don't entirely understand the purpose of this video, and maybe rather what a viewer is supposed to do with this gigantic list of hobbies. I suppose that if you're looking for a new hobby, you would first think about your own interests and what you can do with them, instead just picking one of this list of things, because it is just a gigantic list that is literally all over the place. Now, some of these videos are a bit more interest-based, most often in the cozy corner of things, but still, it's just a list, and I don't think that's very helpful, actually. But say you have chosen a hobby, coloring books, for example. I would say that coloring books and coloring is a very easy thing to decide what you need for those, namely colors and a coloring book. But if you cannot get to that in your brain for some reason, there are tutorials for what you need to get coloring started as your hobby.
Here's everything you need to start your coloring journey. So first you need some markers. So I think the perfect set is the 120 set of Ohuhus. You don't really want to get cheap markers unless you don't know if you think you're gonna like coloring or not. But this set is from Michaels, or you can get them from Amazon or the Ohuhu site. But this has a good variety of colors, as you can see. Like, you're able to shade with them. Or if you want to go full out, you can get the 320 set or the 268, was it, or 160? But yeah, if you want more shades to color with, I would go with the bigger pack.
120 minimum. This set costs €91.95, which is quite a lot. As someone who owns the 48 marker set of this brand, because I do, and I quite like them actually, you don't need that many. And you don't actually need the expensive brand if you're just doing it as a hobby and you don't want to. Sure, if you want to and have the money, go for it. But cheaper markers are perfectly fine. And they also don't tell you that these markers bleed through the page and smell like alcohol, which can cause some people migraines. Those are things you can deal with. I just accept the sacrifice of the back page if I'm using these markers, and that's totally fine. And you can do that and get used to that and whatever. But they don't tell you that, and I think that's important to know, because if you don't know anything about art supplies, which a lot of people that just get into coloring for the fun of it don't know, which is again perfectly fine, they should tell you that. If you're just coloring for the fun of it as a hobby, you would probably care more about the process of it than how professional the end piece looks, and it can still look pretty good with cheaper markers that don't bleed through the page. And you can cheat with less markers as well. To prove that, I use my 48 marker set to draw this image, and I had great fun doing it. It was not for something else, I just wanted to have fun. There are shades and everything. I didn't like the drawing on this page, but it bleeds through the page. You can see that right here. You can see the entire image from the back. And this is quite high quality paper. This is very thick paper, and yeah, it bleeds through it. And that's fine, but you need to know that. And you don't need more than 48. I would argue maybe even get less of them, because I did not use all of them to draw that, I can tell you that much. But you can experiment with a lot of colors, of course, but you don't have to get the expensive ones to make something look good.
And then next you're going to need some acrylic markers. These are for like covering black lines or adding details to your pages. So this is the Ohuhu acrylic paint markers in the set of 24. Comes with broad tip and fine tip as well. So that's a good option. Or there's also the Gravy 28 acrylic fine markers that I really like. These are really good too.
But we already have markers. Why would we spend 32 euros and 95 cents on even more markers? That doesn't make any sense. The creator says that it is to cover lines and add details, which these markers will do because they are opaque, because they have acrylic paint in them. And that's nice on its own, but you don't need both of them to get started, you know? Again, if you want to make really professional looking pieces and whatever, you can do that, but you don't need them. Most people just want to color for calmness and not think about changing the design or where the highlights should go. We've now already supposedly spent 124 euros and 90 cents on this, which in this case I find absolutely ridiculous.
Or you can get some pens. So these are the jelly rolls. I really like the white one and the Moonlight series. So those are really good as well.
This jelly roll set adds another 28 euros. They did sound more optional, and it slightly sounded like the creator only uses the white one or mostly uses the white one. But she could have added that they sell those separately, because I also own one of those white jelly roll pens because they are amazing. But they sell them separately. You can just buy one of them. I'm just a little bit flabbergasted with the amount of things here, and this is going into overconsumption territory at this point.
Then we're going to need some coloring books. So I have 3 recommendations. My personal favorite that I started out with was Fuzzy Huga by Vivi Tinta. It's a very cozy coloring book. It's from Amazon. The lines are a little bit fine. And then there's also the Berry Coloring Fairy Dreams coloring book from Amazon. This one's really fun. It has a good variety of illustrations. And then if we're looking for something a little bit more higher quality, we got Bobby Goods. So this is on cardstock paper. It's on her actual website. And I actually finished this whole book, so this one's my favorite. This is the spring and summer. But yeah, that's everything you need for starting your coloring journey.
These cozy coloring books are very trendy right now online, and that's totally fine. They are cute, but you don't need a few of them to get started. One is enough. I just don't like how much stuff is recommended to buy by this person. Again, it's coloring. Everyone knows what you need for coloring. You need a coloring page or coloring book and some colored pencils or markers or whatever. Not all of this to just get started. She did say in the beginning of the video that you don't necessarily need all of this to get started, but only if you like it. But that's also definitely not the case. If you like coloring with cheaper supplies, you can just keep getting the cheaper supplies if you want. I think it's very expensive and wasteful to recommend all of this, to be honest. Now, this creator seems to think the coloring hobby thing very seriously, which makes a lot of sense because at this point it's her job. A hobby is for most people not their job, because for most people that would take the peace and fun out of it. Maybe just a little bit, but it would make it less of a hobby and more of a job. Those are separate things. And it can be okay to turn your hobby into your job, but then it's your job and not just your hobby anymore. And that also means that if you're just starting out or it's just a hobby, you don't need the same level and amount of supplies that an influencer in this field has. Again, you can get all of this if you have the money and you know you're going to actually use them, that's fine. But let's be real here, most people won't and don't. Frankly, I find it out of touch that this creator is suggesting all of this. Coloring can be a really accessible and kind of cheap hobby to get into, and that's great. Suggesting otherwise is actually just kind of mean. Another community where I see beginners getting baited with what I would call overconsumption is the crochet community. And I find it kind of hard to address that because I'm in this community and I feel like I have been maybe very small, but I have been part of the problem. I'm now in the process of trying to slow down my crocheting process and my craft, and I try only to buy yarn if I actually know what I'm going to use it for and have the project planned for the near future. And of course, I'm not perfect, but I would love to see more of that instead of this.
Just to be with you forever. Darling, forever.
There are 5 beanies, a headband and 3 scarves in this video. And in the comments, the creator recommends a faster stitch when someone asks how they can make that much in a month, because crocheting this much is really a lot. Now, of course, these could be for gifts or to sell, but the creator doesn't specify any of that in any of their content on this page. I explicitly chose a faceless video here because there are so many of these what I make in a month kind of crochet videos, and they're often much more than I would consider normal, and I think should be considered normal, because I do think that these kinds of videos normalize making as much as possible within a month when you're a crocheter. And I've also seen this in the knitting community, by the way. It's not an explicitly crochet only thing. Crochet is kind of faster than knitting in most cases, so that's why I'm focusing on that right now. And it's the same as normalizing of consumption. Nobody needs 5 beanies. And again, they might give it away or sell it or whatever, but it's not specified, so people might assume that they just made 5 beanies for the fun of it. I think a lot of crocheters pride themselves on the idea of slow fashion, especially online, but with these videos getting more popular, I think it's getting normal to make 3 or more garments within a month, which again, it's a lot. Even though there are no specific numbers for fast fashion versus slow fashion, I think that slow fashion is not just about making things with your own hands, slower than a machine or a fast fashion company in general would make it with maybe slightly better materials. It's not just about that. I also think it's about the mindset and making it look exactly how you want, and the craftsmanship, and going back and fixing your mistakes, or if it doesn't fit exactly how you like it, going back and fixing that. It's not just about having the finished thing in a slower way than a fast fashion company would do it. That's not what fast fashion is about. It's about how you do it. So with this context, just using the fastest stitch doesn't make any sense. Whereas the parts of where it's about the process instead of just the finished piece. Sure, if I need a pair of socks, I might knit a new pair of socks, and then I actually need the end product. But it wouldn't make any sense to just go make it as quickly as I can. I also think that overconsumption within the yarn community is promoted with videos such as these. You really don't need more than 10 balls of yarn at a time. And even though this was a lot of yarn, it's by far not the biggest yarn stash I've ever seen, but it is too much, I think. Sometimes I think that fiber artists need a reminder that yarn is made of resources and often produced in countries with not very high labor costs. So that adds to the footprint of the yarn, especially when it's cheaper yarn, because that's often made of non-natural fibers or cotton only, which requires a lot of water. And it's not to say that sheep yarn or alpaca yarn, for example, doesn't have any footprint at all or is not bad for the environment. It is, in a way, but in other ways. What I'm trying to say here is that yarn is a resource. It's not good for the environment necessarily, or in any case, probably. And making your own garments with yarn doesn't necessarily mean that it's better for the environment. I never see big yarn stashes with hand-spun fibers or hand-dyed yarn because those are very expensive. It's Of course, okay, to buy yarn, because buying anything in this current economical climate is not gonna be very good for the environment, but be mindful about it. Like with buying literally anything, be mindful about it. Now, I've also seen a lot of creators on the internet repurposing yarn. For example, they go to the thrift store, find a sweater that they don't particularly like or doesn't fit in today's style and that probably nobody would buy, and then taking it apart and reusing the yarn, or going to the thrift store to buy yarn in the first place. Or a lot of people are hand spinning their yarn or hand dyeing their yarn. Like, it's not all bad on the internet also, but it could be better. I see a lot of people that are very big on the internet that don't really show any mindful yarn buying practices, you know? And I don't like the word mindful at all because it's getting thrown around a lot, but in this case I think it's applicable. Some of these people that show off the yarn stash, which is very big, or that show off how much they make in a month, own a business where they sell what they make, which is great. I do that too. I also sell crochet stuff and I love doing that, but those people don't often mention that in these specific kinds of videos. And now you don't have to mention your business in every video you make about your craft, but if you're going to show off a bigger than normal yarn stash or a bigger than normal production of crocheted stuff, it's necessary, I think, to mention what it's for. Maybe also when you're just making Christmas gifts in December, you make 10 beanies for all your aunts and uncles, say what it's for, because it's not normal to just make that or to just have that. I think it has to have a purpose. I often also see videos of people kind of being mad about how many times they have gotten the suggestion to sell their crochet or knit pieces, because crochet has been popularized on the internet in the last few years and people see that other people are selling it. So if there's a crocheter or a knitter in their life, they are like, oh, that's great, you should sell that. First of all, selling your crochet pieces is very hard and requires a lot of marketing and whatever. And by far not everyone wants that. I would say that most crocheters or knitters don't want to do that, which is fine because for them it's just a hobby for most of those people, and that's great. I know I've been mostly talking about crafty hobbies because that's the corner of the internet I'm into, but this push to make your hobby into something professional has been going on for a lot longer than just the internet in more other hobby corners. I've been playing the violin since I was 7 and I played in orchestra when I was younger. Even then the pressure was very high to perform and to be the best and to keep getting better instead of just enjoying your time playing some pieces. Now, getting better at your hobby is often enjoyable because it makes it easier to execute your hobby, but sometimes it was a little too much. You were often expected to have certain ambitions with your playing, even though it was just a hobby. You were supposed to keep doing it forever and to perform and to be the best in the orchestra. And that wasn't always great. It was great fun. And I know that not everyone felt it like that, but a lot of people also did. And I know that this is a big issue within the classical music, and it's also one of the reasons I did not end up really going through with studying my instrument. Just being kind of good at your instrument for some people just meant that they were going to have to do that for the rest of their life as a job. That was just normal, I guess, in that community. This push to make something professional or serious about your hobby is seeping through into other things. It has always existed in other things also. I've seen this in sports as well, for example, and with drawing, but often not with like crafty hobbies or maybe even like hiking or something. Now you can just make content about it and it can become your profession. And for some people that's great, but a lot of people also don't want that. That has resulted in this kind of weird mess on the internet of people recommending their hobbies and then getting recommended to buy all this stuff for the hobbies that you don't really need, and seeing how productive people are within their hobbies and some people getting jealous or kind of questioning that. Actually, this kind of leads to unrealistic expectations and unhealthy ideas about productivity and overconsumption. Tell me why, for example, people are asking Reddit if their 5-year-old child's art is good. Just let your kids be kids. If they like making art, you should nurture that, get them more paper and more art supplies. But you don't have to be concerned right now with whether it's good or not. Your child is 5. And I understand that parents have been concerned with whether their child is gifted or not for the entirety of time, basically. That's not something new, but the internet has been amplifying that, especially on social media. You don't have to be amazing at your hobby, you just have to be good enough to enjoy it, because it's a hobby, it's not your work. And yes, learning a new process for a hobby is sometimes frustrating, depending on the hobby you choose, of course. but it should still have some kind of joy in it. When you get a new skill, for example, or when you can see what you can make, for example. And some hobbies don't require any skills, which is also great. It's about the joy and the rest and the peace you can find in the process, and the need to not be productive. If I don't want to knit anything more than socks, because the only thing I know how to knit is squares and socks right now, I will not learn it. We'll find out. That's for the future, because there is no pressure, because it is just a hobby. Now, I go to art school, so I'm aware that this sounds kind of hypocritical coming from me, but I want my art, my comic art, mostly, to be my job. And crocheting can also be my job. I need to learn how to balance that, of course, both of those things. But I want those things to be my job. And that's a conscious choice I've made, and they can still be fun. I hope so, because I'm not gonna pursue art if it's not fun anymore. But I also hope that having fun at work will become more important, and that doesn't mean that your work is becoming a hobby. And I do have hobbies like reading and gaming that I don't want to monetize or put on the internet to show how inspirational it all is. Maybe in a story post on Instagram someday, like, oh, this book was great, but that's all that would be. The entire point of hobbies is that they are not that serious, and the internet is selling them like they are that serious. If your hobby is binging reality TV, that's a perfectly great fine hobby to have. I would love to hear about your hobbies and why you like doing them or having them. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please press the wonderful shiny like and subscribe buttons, and then I will see you next time. Ciao!